girl. Oh. Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button now and press the little bell button. You'll get notifications then every time we upload a video on a Sunday morning. Bringing in the cows here to be milked, so that'll give me the perfect opportunity to go through what I mentioned last week, and that is our kind of mid-season review performance figures, which I gathered up for our mid-season discussion group meeting. So basic performance figures up until the 30th of June. So that would be kilos of milk solids sold, ton of grass grew, kgs of nitrogen spread, which is kind of the midpoint through the year, and you'll pretty much have 50% of everything that you're going to sell, grow or spread done by the 30th of June. Fertilizer yield should have a bit more than 50% spread, and the other two will be hovering around the 50% mark. So obviously it's really good. You can't do anything to change what has happened up until 30th of June, but it's good to look at how far you've come and what you've done, and if any of the targets are way above or way below what you would have set for the farm at the start of the year, you still are left with 6 months of production almost, or fertilizer usage or whatever. I suppose tonnage of grass grown is kind of linked to fertilizer spread, so if you haven't grew as much grass as you would have hoped, then maybe, and you've spread less nitrogen than you thought you would have, well then maybe they're two are tied, but not always. And you'll see in the figures in a minute, the weather also has a massive impact on grass and how much nitrogen you have spread. So obviously when it's dry and you're not getting any rain, you're not going to be spreading any nitrogen fertilizer, and you're also not going to be growing the grass. So I suppose the grass is a kind of harder one to change if you're not happy where you are at this stage of the year. But milk solids sold and meal fed, if they're way over or way under, you still have time to tweak it a little bit between now and when the cows are dried off. So mid-season review, what have we done and how have we managed to do it? So I don't need to remind anyone that 2023 and 2024 were two horrendous years. Anyone who's farming will remember them for a long time, and maybe for the rest of their farming careers, certainly 2024. But from our point of view here, both those years probably put us in a position where our business couldn't afford to have another 2023 or 2024 this year. And I can be guilty of going on about this a lot, but you know, it's one of the things that makes farming such a crazy industry, that somebody's business can ride on the success or failure the business can ride on whether the fact that you're going to get too much rain or not enough rain. It's a game of chance is what it leaves it down to. So you might as well go into a casino and put whatever your business is worth on red or black in January every year and cross your fingers that it lands on the one you bet on by the end. But that's the position that we're in when it comes to farming, unfortunately. So for mid-season, so all these figures are up to the 30th of June. So we're going to class that as mid-season, and it gives us a chance to look at how the first half of the year has went. We've no idea how the second half is going to go, but it'll give us a fair indication, looking at where we've come from, as to where we're going. So I'll probably start with the most important one first, which will be kgs of milk solids sold per cow up until the 30th of June. So we would have started calving around the 5th of February, but these are peak cow numbers. So this is kgs of milk solids sold per cow, not farm total. And I've also averaged the figures between both farms because they're extremely similar when you sit down and work out the figures on tons of grass grown, milk solids sold, meal fed. They're pretty much the same, so which is interesting to see. But to be expected, if they're being managed the same way then and similar cows, they should really kind of be the same. But kgs of milk solids sold until the 30th of June is averaging out at about 252 kilos of milk solids per cow. So that would be the highest milk sales, the largest volume of milk solids sold per cow here since we got into dairy cows in 2019. Some people watch this video won't realise that we were new entrants in 2019 either, but I'll probably go into that in another video. But since 2019, that's the highest we've ever sold. There would have always been a goal here when I came back from New Zealand, I suppose, of this 500 kilo cow doing 500 kilos of milk solids on 500 kilos of meal. The 500 kilos of meal is not happening here. It's never going to happen here. The 500 kilo cow has probably disappeared a little bit. She's a little bit more than that now, and I prefer a cow a bit more than that. But we have never hit the 500 kilos of milk solids sold since we've started. So this is year 7. This is year 6. But we're going to do it this year by the looks of how that has went. So 252 by the 30th of June means we should hit the 500 kilos by the end of the year, so long as everything goes to plan for the rest of the year. Just to compare to 23 and 24, we're about 30% more milk solids sold by that date than we were the year before. Now 30% is a huge increase, and that is what has saved our business here this year. Bottom line is that we have sold more milk solids. Next then is one of the bigger costs on the farm, which is kgs of concentrates fed in order to get those milk solids out of the cow. Quite high. We fed stronger in the spring than we ever have, as you'll know if you remember looking back on some of the videos from last spring. But the feeding has allowed us to get the cows up to where we have the milk solids that we've sold now at this stage. So by the 30th of June, we have averaged about 570 kilos of concentrates fed per cow across both farms, average. So when you work that out down to how many kilos of milk solids sold, it's working out about that we've fed about 2.3 kilos of meal for every kilo of milk solids that has went up the lane. You'll remember I said there at the start, the aim when I came home from New Zealand in 2017 was to establish a farm with the 3 500s, which was kind of their aim: 500 kilo cow, 500 kilos of milk solids on 500 kilos of meal. The meal doesn't happen on this farm. We haven't got that kind of farm, and I think trying to reach or trying to hit the 500 kilos of meal fed target has impacted our reaching the 500 kilos of milk solids sold every year. So we kind of just took the brakes off this year and fed a lot of meal, but it means that we're now set to feed double what our target would be in terms of meal to get the same amount of milk solids. So when you extract that out across the year, the milk solids, like I said, we should sell 500 kilos of milk solids or more per cow this year, but we also will have fed over 1 ton of meal per cow, so it could actually reach up to 1.1 or 1.2 tons of meal, and we will have fed beet on top of that as well, so that doesn't include beet feeding. So we've fed the cows hard, they've milked hard as well in return, but that's kind of where we would like to be for feeding meal. But I think it might just be the farm, and it certainly has been the year with how dry it has been. But the cows have given back what we've put in, which is most important, and more, way more. When we look at how much grass we grew up until the 30th of June, we're sitting about the 6 tonne mark average across both farms. If you extract that out across the year, we should do about 13 tonne, I'd imagine 12 to 13 tonne of grass. Absolutely not what our target would be, but it is 100% down to the weather. So it has been so dry that we just haven't been growing it. Very, very poor mid-season growth this year, and that has impacted the tons of grass grown. So that ties into your concentrates sold, or fed per cow. So we didn't just feed the cows a lot of meal to get a lot of milk solids out of them. We were also filling, and have been and still are filling, a big feed deficit from grass. So if we had been growing more grass, I can guarantee we would have fed less meal, but we'd have sold the same milk solids. It's annoying that we're still feeding 6 kilos of meal in August, and we have been for the last 6 or 7 weeks. That's how you'll end up with an awful lot of meal fed by the end of the year. So yeah, the grass is not where we'd want it target wise, but absolutely down to the weather. And we have not impacted the cow by having not enough grass for her. She's sold a lot of milk because we've filled the gap with lots of meal. So look, it has paid, and it has paid off for the cow as well. Just the target for grass here would be 14 tonne average every year would be the aim. Now, when you look at nitrogen use, we don't spread a lot of nitrogen, and that is down to Andre van Barnevel's advice on nitrogen usage and what we spread throughout the year. And we haven't spread a lot of nitrogen any year here since he came on board, which has pretty much been from the start. So we would have grown that 6 tonne of grass now on an average of about 95 kilos of nitrogen per hectare across the whole farm. That would be silage ground and grazing ground, not just grazing ground, silage ground and grazing ground included, and ground for heifers and everything. So when you extract that across, it comes down to about 18 or 19 kilos of nitrogen spread per tonne of grass grown. So that from an efficiency point of view, that's really good. We'll be bang on target to be able to grow a tonne of grass out of 16, 17 or 18 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. But I would have had more spread, but it's difficult here. As everyone knows, the springs are wet, and even this spring, even though it was a good year, good and dry, we would still miss a round or two at the start compared to the dry farmer. We'll miss a round at the end, and this year, we have been so dry, we have definitely missed one full round in the middle because there has been no rain. And before the closing day comes up in a few weeks' time, we're going to struggle to get the last round out because it's back dry again. So that will have helped how much fertilizer we'll have spread this year. We'll have spread very little, but our grass growth target will also be down. So you can't really link the amount of grass grown to how much nitrogen we have spread this year, and the lower amount of grass grown down to a lower amount of nitrogen spread, because I think the weather has been the main thing. If it had been a better year, we would have spread more nitrogen, and we certainly would have grown more grass, but we're spreading fertilizer based on whether we're getting rain or not throughout the year. So look, it's just about being efficient with it. There's no point putting out while it's dry and it all being taken up with the first shower of rain. Cows' milk urea going through the roof, her struggling to process all that nitrogen in the plant. So look, it's about being smart with nitrogen, and we've learned that from guidance from Andre. So we never ever overspread nitrogen here. We spread what we feel we need to spread based on how much grass we're growing, and we do it based on what weather we have at the time. So that's a pretty good review of the midway point. I would say I'm very, very happy with where we were by the 30th of June. I hope I'm as happy by the end of the year. Just quickly on grass while I'm here, we have gotten dry again. I don't know how it happened. I think a lot of wind, and we got no rain with that storm. So last week you saw me all excited, and I sliding up the sliders on the meal feeders because we were planning to get them back down to 2 kilos of meal as soon as possible, because we were going to have a surplus. But that surplus has disappeared when I walked yesterday. Grass growth is back down to 30 here on this farm for the week, and less than 50 on the other farm. Ground is hard, you wouldn't get a pigtail down the ground, so As you can see, the cows are back getting silage again out on the fields. Unfortunately, that started yesterday, and they're back up on 6 kilos of nuts. So that's the current situation with grass. But up until 30 June, we're unbelievably happy, especially with milk solids sold, and just the financial position that has put us in. It's allowing us to dig ourselves out of the big hole that we ended up getting dug into for 2023 and 2024. So if the second half of the year, we're well into the second half of the year now, but if it goes as well as it's going or has gone, look, we will have recovered from the hammer that we took for the last 2 years. Just on how cows are milking at the minute, they're still giving it back to us based on what we're putting in. So they're doing about 1.85 to 1.87 kilos of milk solids here, and they're still doing 2 kilos of milk solids on the rented farm. So they have not dropped to under 2 kilos of milk solids up there this year yet. And today is the 10th of August. So yeah, it's crazy what the cows have done. It looks like we have a herd of cows that if you just get them to peak high enough at the right time and hold them there for as long as possible, they really do hold very well. So, and they've been on silage, has been a lot of their diet for a lot of the year, along with good grass and lots of meal. So look, that mixed the total mixed ration that they've been on kind of in the fields, in the paddocks this summer, seems to suit them well, and they've processed it well, and what we've put in they've given back, and that's pretty much as much as you can hope for out of a cow. You know, an efficient herd of cows, that's what you're aiming for. So just let me know in the comments if there's anything else, any more info you'd like me to cover. I can cover it next week. Let me know how your year has went. If you want, put into the comments there how your production performance has been. I've been happy this year compared to the last two. I think if you're, no matter what your farm, whether it's beef, sheep, dairy, tillage, you're going to be happy this year compared to the last 2 years. And I've said it before, on this farm here, I'll always take this summer where it's too dry over the last two where it's too wet. It's way easier managing when it's too dry than it is too wet. So look, it has worked out well. That'll be it for this week's video. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button now. That really helps this channel. We have lots of people watching who aren't subscribed, and I know people forget to do it, but just if you could, just when you're finished this video, click the subscribe button that's underneath this. It helps out the channel a lot, and ring the bell. You'll be notified of when our videos go up, so you won't miss any of them every week. And that's pretty much it. We'll talk to you next week.